Hey, everybody. It's Cindy Baker. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. It's Monday Night Live, and we are going to talk about all things ADHD. Um, I'm trying a new little setup here, so I wanted to make sure I'm streaming where I'm supposed to. So if you don't mind, could you say hi in the chat if you're watching this live? Let me know if you can see me and hear me. That would be awesome. And so I don't see myself streaming, so I'm just going to check on my phone here. It's Monday night. Oops, and now I can hear myself. So say hi in the chat if you're joining me. If you love my new background, let me know because it's fake. But I love it. I wish this was like I like white and blue. As you can see, I'm wearing white and blue. Not because of the background, just because I like it. So if you're able to see and hear me, please say hi. I'm working with a little bit of different technology today, and I want to make sure you guys can see and hear me okay. So if you are able to see me, say hi in the chat. Richard Baker is watching. He says, hey, good looking. That's because, you know what? Because I'm married to Richard Baker. And yeah, so he's allowed to say I'm good looking. So good to see everyone. Want to make sure you can see and hear me okay. Who else is with me tonight? Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Say hi in the chat. Hey, Barbara. Good deal. Can you see and hear me okay? I'm trying a little different setup here. I just wanted to make sure that we're all good. Hi, Gina. So yeah, it looks like you can see my lovely background. I really like this background because I like blue. Blue is my favorite color, and I like blue and white. My whole kitchen is blue and white. I have a blue sofa in our den, blue chair. I wear blue clothes. I like blue. But anyway, so we are going to talk about ADHD triggers tonight, identifying your ADHD triggers. And so I just want to make sure we're catching everybody. All right, good. It looks like some people are saying hi. I have to look at my phone. I've got a little different thing here. But as you're probably already aware, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So it has to do with your executive functions in your brain. And research indicates that there are certain biological and environmental factors that can actually trigger ADHD symptoms. Now, you can't cure ADHD, but you can take steps to manage it. And so you may be able to actually minimize your symptoms by identifying what your individual trigger points are. And so some common triggers that we're going to talk about tonight are stress, poor sleep, certain foods and additives, overstimulation, and technology. So once you figure out what triggers your ADHD symptoms, and yes, I know you're watching me online and that is technology, but it's okay to watch an ADHD coach online. That can't trigger your symptoms, right? So you can make the necessary lifestyle changes to better control your episodes if you know what your triggers are. So stress for adults especially is a trigger. Stress often triggers ADHD episodes. And at the same time, ADHD may cause a perpetual state of stress. So a person who has ADHD, they can't successfully focus and filter out all the extra stimuli. And so that increases stress levels and anxiety, which can stem from things that have to do with ADHD, like approaching deadlines, procrastination, the inability to focus on your work. All of that can raise your stress levels even more. So unmanaged stress, that's a big trigger. And that aggravates common symptoms of ADHD. So you've got to evaluate yourself during periods of stress. Like, for instance, when a work project is coming to a due date, for example, um, are you more hyperactive than usual? Like antsy, fidgety? Are you having more trouble concentrating than normal? So try to incorporate daily techniques to relieve stress. Do things like take regular breaks. I know that sound you're just tuning me out right now, I bet, because you hear take regular breaks all the time and you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for real, take regular breaks. When you're performing tasks, you've got to schedule breaks. They are important, and they actually help you perform better mentally. So, exercise that relieves stress, as well as doing things like relaxing activities like yoga. It's still exercise, but it's stretching and relaxing. So, uh, another trigger is sleep. Well, before I get into sleep, let me see in the chat. Is anybody notice that when you're feeling a lot of stress, do you notice that your ADHD is worse? Let me see in the chat. Just say yes or me or something like that. Um, say me in the chat if you notice that stress makes your symptoms worse, your ADHD. Um, I'm gonna give a little break because I know there's a delay. So in the chat, say me if you notice that stress makes your ADHD worse. Because if you can start to recognize that's happening to you, you can start to go, okay, I need to relieve some stress, because if you relieve the stress, then you're going to notice your focus is better and whatnot. So yes, hey Julianne, there's a 3P Power member in the house. Whoop whoop. That's my coaching program. So okay, so stress is a big trigger. Another one is lack of sleep. Um, stimulant medications increase dopamine levels, and I know not everybody is on ADHD medicine, but if you are, it increases the dopamine levels in specific areas of your brain and other parts of the central nervous system. So while the increased dopamine levels could alleviate some of your ADHD symptoms, they can actually increase the likelihood of you having trouble sleeping. Excuse me. So those medications may make it difficult to fall asleep, and then you might wake up during the night, and that causes daytime sleepiness because you didn't sleep well during the night. And sleep affects our focus. So that mental fogginess that you feel when you have poor sleep at night, that can worsen your ADHD symptoms and cause inattention, indecisiveness, being impulsive, drowsiness. You make careless mistakes. So inadequate sleep also leads to a decline in performance. Your concentration is affected. Your reaction time is affected, and comprehension. You actually can't comprehend as easily when you are sleep deprived. So too little sleep can cause a person to become, actually, this sounds opposite, but they can become hyperactive to compensate for the like sluggishness or um, sleepiness that they feel. So it's almost like you're just going, or fidgeting or whatever, because you're just so tired. You're like beyond tired. Has anybody ever felt that way? So it's really important. And I struggle with this. I'm just going to be real with you. I struggle to go to bed at the time I need to get up as early as I have to. And so I've got to focus on that and do some things to wind down at night. So get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. That's going to help you. If you're watching this and you have ADHD, that's going to help you control any negative symptoms the next day. So there's a lot of things we could say about sleep. I have a noise machine, like a sleep. It makes like a white noise in the background that sounds like a fan or something, and that really helps me to kind of tune out any auditory distractions. Um, you need to limit your screen time. You don't eat right before you go to bed. Honestly, I don't follow all of these. I'm just telling you this. When I do follow them, this works. And you need your room needs to be dark. Temperature needs to be cool, not too hot. So really, really try to prioritize sleep, and that will help a lot. So how many of you have noticed that your ADHD is worse when you don't get enough sleep? Just curious. Um, how many of you notice that your ADHD is worse when you don't get enough sleep? Yes. So several people say they do notice. I notice when I don't get enough sleep, I just have trouble focusing. I can't think as clearly. I forget things. I go walk into a room and I'm like, have seen your moment. Well, what did I come in here for? That's way worse when I don't get enough sleep. So if that is you, let me know in the chat. Come on, guys. This is a dialogue, not a monologue. You gotta give me some interaction here. So the first one was stress. Second one is sleep, and then um, different foods and additives to certain foods can either help or worsen your symptoms of ADHD. So, in coping with the disorder, it's important to pay attention to whether specific foods, like how they affect you, whether they worsen or alleviate your symptoms. So, nutrients like proteins and fatty acids and calcium and magnesium, vitamin B, those help to properly nourish your body and your brain. Um, Brain food you definitely need, and it can diminish symptoms of ADHD. And they've done all these studies. Certain foods and food additives have been thought to make ADHD symptoms worse in some people. So, for instance, it would be good to avoid foods that have a lot of sugar and a lot of fat. I mean, that would be good for other health reasons as well. But then there's certain additives like sodium benzoate, or benzoate, I don't know how you say it. It's a preservative. It's very, very common. And MSG, red dyes, yellow dyes, they're used to enhance the flavor and the taste and appearance of foods. They can also aggravate symptoms of ADHD. And so you kind of have to just experiment a little bit. They did a study in 2007 that linked artificial dyes and sodium benzoate to greater hyperactivity in children of certain age groups, regardless of their ADHD status, whether they had it or not. So I imagine that affects adults as well. They've probably done studies on adults. That's just the only one I'm familiar with. So, and back to medicine, if you are on ADHD medicine, appetite suppression is a common side effect of the stimulant medicine, especially when you first start to take it. And stimulant medications are what doctors use to treat ADHD, among other things. And that can result, if you aren't eating right, you can have mineral deficiencies. And a deficiency in a mineral can affect all kinds of things in your body and the way you feel emotionally. So, like, for instance, a deficiency in zinc, for example, that has been shown to produce inattentiveness, restlessness, delayed cognitive development. No lie. So who knew? Zinc. So there's no evidence that mineral deficiencies cause ADHD, but they definitely can affect your symptoms. So what do you guys think so far? Focus is difficult when I'm overly tired. Yes, me too. Me too. Hey, everybody. If you're just jumping on midstream, just say hi in the chat so I know you're here. And if you're watching the replay, just say hashtag replay. So, okay, so we've talked about stress, we've talked about diet, we talked about sleep. Another one is overstimulation. I know this is a bad one for me. So a lot of people with ADHD experience bouts of like overstimulation where they just feel bombarded by overwhelming sights and sounds. Crowded venues like concert halls and amusement parks, um, shopping, that can trigger ADHD symptoms. So you've got to be aware of that, and allow adequate personal space. That's important for preventing just an outburst of your ADHD. So, you want to avoid like super crowded restaurants, rush hour congestion, busy supermarkets, if you can, high traffic malls. Um, that's going to help diminish troublesome ADHD symptoms. I know I'm do not like to be in really crowded places. It's too much, sights and sounds, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with all the choices and the stores. So overstimulation can definitely cause overwhelm in a person with ADHD. Um, and another one is technology. So, you constant electronic stimulation from, we're talking about being overstimulated from computers, cell phones, television, internet, that can also aggravate symptoms. And, you know, there's been a lot of debate about whether watching TV influences ADHD, especially in children. Um, but it can intensify symptoms. Flashing images and excessive noise, that doesn't cause ADHD. But if a person is having a hard time focusing, then a glaring screen is going to affect their concentration. And so it's a lot better to release your pent up energy by a good workout than by just sitting for long stretches in front of a screen. If you have ADHD, your body needs to move, even if you think you're not the hyperactive. It needs to move. And if it hasn't been moving in a long time, you might feel sluggish. But I promise if you will get up and get moving instead of just staring at that screen forever, you're going to notice a difference. So make a point to monitor the computer and the television time, and just like you pretend like you're a child, and limit your viewing to set time segments. And so there's not really any specific guidelines for how much screen time is appropriate for somebody with ADHD. So you kind of have to make your own judgment call on that. But as far as children go, I know the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that infants and children under 2 years of age never watch television or use other entertainment media. I know, right? And children over 2 years old should be limited to 2 hours of high quality entertainment media. As a person who grew up on Sesame Street before the internet, I just think that that's something to consider if you happen to be a parent. But it is bad for adults as well, especially, if you're a professional, you've got to be sharp to perform well on your job. And you can't combine the sleep deprivation with the technology, because so many times we reward ourselves by staying up too late. We're like, oh, I've worked and worked and worked, and now it's me time. Well, me time is making your ADHD worse, because if me time means staying up late, eating junk that has additives or whatever, and watching something on a screen, you're combining 3 of your ADHD triggers right there. So how much time do we waste watching that? How Netflix is, that next it'll end with a cliffhanger, and then the next episode just automatically loads, and you're just like, oh, I'll just watch the very beginning of the next episode. And then before you know it, you're sucked in, right? Same with scrolling, the social, just video after video or whatever. So keep that in mind. And how many of you, I'm just curious in the chat, how many of you can relate to the staying up late, watching too much, or spending too much time on technology? Stress and stimulation, like job interviews. Yes. I'm stressed now because my phone with all my cards is, oh no. I hope you find it, Jenny. Too loud stresses and overwhelms me. Yes, me too. What about taking a walk or shop an hour a day? Yes, taking a walk is great because not only does it get you moving, but actually, especially if you're outside, you get fresh air, and you also are releasing dopamine to your brain, which is just what same thing the medication does. And so you're actually helping your ADHD in more than one way by taking a walk. I'd not like to be on the computer long. I get overwhelmed just being out shopping. Yes, me too. Just one more article. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate. So you have to be patient with this. Be patient. Avoiding things that trigger ADHD symptoms means that you may have to make a lot of changes in your routine, and change is hard. But if you can break some bad habits and start some good habits, just little bits at a time, and you stick to these lifestyle changes, it's going to help you manage your symptoms. So eat a healthy, balanced diet. Be mindful of that. Avoid trigger foods. Maybe you experiment and figure out what bothers you. Limit your screen time. I just read today an article about a person who avoided social media until after lunch and how much more productive she was. Exercise, get moving. I don't have much time for exercise, but I try to fit it in little tiny windows. It doesn't have to be a lot. Practice mindfulness. Be aware of what you're doing to your life and to yourself, and how you're feeling and how you can change it. And if you have a lot to do, break down tasks into small, manageable chunks. That's one of the things that I teach in my coaching program. Use calendars, planners, timers, reminders, all those kind of things that can help you stay organized. And again, I talk about that in my coaching program, and there's other free trainings on that as well. But I'm curious if you have any tips that work for you. Put them in the chat if you have some tips that have worked for you. I'm curious to just hear. She said, "What pays a toll on me?" Yes, yeah. So again, these are just reminders that you can actually make your ADHD worse by not being healthy. And well balanced. And so it's a vicious cycle. You're not healthy, so your ADHD is worse. Your ADHD is worse, so you're not healthy, and it feeds on each other. So any questions or comments or tips that you guys have to share? Again, if you're watching on the replay, if you would just say hashtag replay, let me know. That'd be cool. So any comments or questions or other tips that you want to share? All right. Well, that's all I have for you tonight. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. As always, I enjoy this group. You guys are so great. If you stay tuned, I'll have another session next week at the same time, same place. And you can always reach out to me with questions about ADHD coaching or any of my other programs. So actually, when I get stressed, I'm looking at cat or dance videos. I call a friend. I like puppy videos. but they are addictive. I'm telling you, because you just scroll and scroll and scroll and they keep going. So be careful about that. But hey, have a good night, everybody, and leverage your ADHD as your superpower. You can do it. Have a good night. Bye.